But in that circumstance, I have nothing that I'm pulling away from. I just want to move toward this goal. There's nothing I'm trying to push away. There's only the thing that I want to bring in. If you can only support creators who provide value and make you think, please consider contributing to my Patreon page the next time you watch one of my videos. Hello everybody and welcome. Today I figured I would talk a little bit about desire. Now sometimes that comes off as a strange word, but really what I mean by desire is what it is that we want. There are a lot of teachers out there who tell you that we know what we don't want, which therefore means that if we think about it, we do know what we want. The problem is, I think that a lot of us have been taught to set goals based upon physical products that we want to have in our lives, and by want, it's kind of like society tells you you want it, like lots of money, a big house, a white picket fence, things like that, and yet we don't actually want them, or we only want them because we don't want the negative counterpart, such as you only want money because you don't want to not have money. So even though we say, well, obviously, since I don't want to be poor, I want to be rich. But that's not necessarily the case. If you don't want to be poor, you just don't want to be poor. That doesn't actually mean you want to be rich or that you need to be rich in order to not feel poor. So when it comes to our desires, we actually have to start very general. And I would claim that most of the time, it's the general desire that we actually truly want, rather than a specific product or a specific physical thing. For example, for a long time I've said that I want lots of money, but the reason I want lots of money is so that I don't have to think about money anymore. I don't want to have to worry about how much something costs. I don't want to worry about not being able to pay my bills, all these other things. But that is a desire that has come from the place of not wanting something else. And I know that when it comes to desire, there's a saying that goes, don't move away from something, move toward something else. And a lot of the time we translate this as, I don't want to be poor, so I'm going to move toward money. But the reality is, when you're moving toward money because you don't want to be poor, you're still moving away from poverty. You're not actually moving toward wealth. So what you need to figure out is what exactly you're hoping to get through the having of money. So in my case, if I want lots of money, well, why is it that I want lots of money? What do I expect lots of money to bring me? And this is a concept that Abraham Hicks talks about a lot. And usually she says the conclusion is pretty much everything you want because you think it will make you happy. But I've already explained in another video that physical things don't make you happy, and it's humorous that we actually pursue them in order to make us happy, because happiness has very few requirements. I would claim possibly even none other than life, although freedom is a potential absolute as well. I'm not entirely sure though, because there do seem to be some people who were imprisoned and happy at the same time. Personally, I hope I never have to test that theory. But if all you need to be happy is life and possibly freedom, then you don't really need things in order to reach that emotional state. Which then indicates that perhaps we're searching for goals because we don't want to be uncomfortable. And that is an attitude of pulling away from. So when it comes to your desire, we need to start really simple. And personally, when I think about why it is I want money, I come to the conclusion that what I truly want is rest, peace, satisfaction, fulfillment, love, and health. I know that there's this woman who did a TED Talk on Jolly Kumar, I believe is her name. She talked about the 3 things that pretty much everybody wants, and in the order of most important would be health, happiness, and love. I think is what she said. Which personally, I think just means that in order to find love, you first need health and happiness. And so on. It's entirely possible that we want health more than anything else, but personally, that is not the highest on my list of things that I want, which means that I'm pretty healthy, all things considered, so I'm not worried about having health that much anymore. I'm more focused on happiness and then love. So if you look at those three emotions, those are kind of general feelings. It's not a specific thing. You want a feeling. And ultimately, that's all you really care about. The things that help you reach that feeling are kind of bonuses, or they're fun to have in the moment, but it's kind of like every time you have an achievement, at least for me, I see the achievement and then immediately jump to the next project. So I don't revel in the success very long. And I'd say that's probably pretty normal for the average human. I get better at reveling in my successes, but honestly, I have to practice that. It's so much easier to just finish a project and go, oh yeah, it's done, I'm so glad, and then go right into the next one, totally forgetting about the last accomplishment. Such as I wrote a book when I was probably in college, I think. It might have been high school, summer, or something too. But I finished writing an entire novel. It still needs editing and so on, but you know, the accomplishment of writing an entire book is a very impressive one for anybody else in my eyes. And yet when it came to me achieving that, I went, oh yeah, I just finished a book. No biggie. So even though I would congratulate somebody else on reaching the same milestone, to me it wasn't a big deal because I was already focused on the next goal or the next task, such as editing or writing the next story that had already popped into my head, or finishing college, or you know, whatever else was going on then. I think it was sometime around my parents' divorce, so more than likely I moved pretty quickly into semi-truck driving, which I guess means that it must have been during college that I wrote the book, or possibly that my memory is not all that accurate as far as time goes because I have an episodic memory, not really a linear one. But whatever the case may be, I don't revel in my accomplishments, which means that when it comes to physical things, I don't really revel in them either. So if I had $1 million in the bank, I would probably feel like, okay, now that goal is accomplished, what next? It's not necessarily that that's the end goal, it's just the interim one. So when I reach it, then I'm like, okay, now I get to move on to the next one. New challenge. And while challenge is fun, it doesn't give me the desired emotional reaction that I'm looking for. You know, I won't find peace by achieving a particular financial goal. I won't find peace by reaching a particular financial goal. I won't find happiness from buying a really big house with a red carpet entrance and big pillars. You know, I'm not going to find happiness in a big house where I'm living alone and nobody comes to visit. You know, all these things that we hope to get really don't actually bring us the sense of fulfillment that we want. And while they might for a little while, for that brief honeymoon phase, ultimately the emotion that we're looking for is up to us to create despite the circumstances of our life. Or, you know, on the side, and then enjoy the physical products that we find, like whipped cream on top of a dessert. You know, you're adding something to something that's already good. So, look into your heart, or look inside yourself and try to figure out what it is that you really want. I know that there are certain specific things that we might truly desire, but first, make sure that you're not pulling away from something instead of moving toward something else. You know, don't pull away from poverty. Instead, figure out what it is you're trying to find through the getting of money. Now, when it comes to specific desires, these ones are a little bit harder to discern, I think, but they're also quite obvious at times. Like if you find yourself in a particular circumstance, you're reminded of whatever it is that you want. For example, I like to re-listen to books because I'm an auditory person. So I typically read in the form of listening to audiobooks. I know a lot of people hate that, but personally it works really well for me. But I do find that I go back to the same series over and over and over again. And it has built up in me a desire to write books that somebody will come back and reread themselves. So that is a physical desire that I really do want to accomplish. But in that circumstance, I have nothing that I'm pulling away from. I just want to move toward this goal. There's nothing I'm trying to push away. There's only the thing that I want to bring in, which is becoming a really good author. Writing a book that is really moving to somebody, or that somebody really enjoys and wants to reread over and over again. I don't know if I will reach that goal. Hopefully I will one day. But as far as I can tell at this point in my life, that is probably the single specific goal that I know about. I know that there are things that I would like, like having a long-term romantic relationship would be fun, but honestly, I just want the love. I don't really care about how it comes about. So there again, I can just say that I want the general more than I want the specific. I don't really care about putting labels on how I get love or how I find love in my life. Instead, I'd rather just say I want to be loved and to love and leave it at that, because there is no need to make it more specific. I know what I want. So when it comes to specific goals, I don't know why they form. I don't know how they form. I don't think there's a rule on how many you should have, or how often you should have them, or if you should even have them at all. But I do think in most circumstances, you're probably going to find that the true desire you have is a general one for a feeling, not a specific thing. So keep that in mind. Thanks for watching. This is everything I have for you today. So make sure you like, subscribe, click the bell, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.